So, hello everyone, and a wonderful warm welcome to our third lecture in the series Echoes of the Spirit. And today's lecture is the power of healing. So, we will have lecture, we will have discussion, possible questions and answers, and depending upon the time, a small sitting in the power just to finish our evening today. And how wonderful to see so many of you taking time just to really focus on the magical power of healing. And indeed, it is the greatest power of the universe. And it is really within everything that we create within mediumship. And so, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. And so let us first start with the power of healing. The potential of healing grows and develops through our compassion for others. And one question that I would ask each one of you is, how do you perceive the power to be? How do you interact with the power itself? And many of you follow the pathway of the medium, and definitely the pathway of sensitivity. So the core essence of the power itself is, of course, love. And it is love that is the guiding force of the universe, together with compassion and understanding. And these are the three qualities of healing, for they bring together the universal compassion of all life. And so whenever we work mediumistically, when we move into that time of sensitivity, it is our compassion that takes us into an understanding of the needs of another. It is by the power of the voice that we begin to move into the presence of the power itself. It is through the prayerfulness of devotion that we begin to touch upon the core essence of our own power, of our own presence, and indeed of our own spirit. And so healing itself is the divine force of all life. And whichever type of healing you are interested in, it all comes from the same source. For there are many pathways that lead us into understanding of the power itself, but each one comes from the same source, the power, the presence that is of all life. When we look at the energy of compassion, it is the ability to understand and to support the needs of another. And I often find that, especially when we're working as a medium, that we often have to deal with our own issues when we are working. And that sometimes as we move into these heights of sensitivity, our own mind can question, for instance, whether we are good enough. Can we do this? Should we do this? And that rises from our own subconscious experiences of life. And the answer is yes, of course you can, and yes, you should. Because if you are good enough for creation, then, my dear ones, you are good enough for anything and for anyone of this world, and indeed the next. And so when we move into a sympathy, when we move into a harmonizing with our clients, or even within a demonstration, the power of compassion will move you beyond yourself. It will take you into an energy that is all giving, all knowing, and all loving. And so too will the power of prayer. So whenever we work, whenever we sit, whenever we cultivate the many powers of the Spirit, it should always be with love and compassion. For at the heart of everything we are and everything that we create mediumistically is healing, is the power of healing itself. And as the medium, we are the mediator between two worlds. We bring together the essence and presence of the spirit world into the physical world. And for the time that we create that, we bring together the relationship of the spirit and the recipient. And that is often a healing one. For the presence of the spirit is to prove the continuation of life. And often that continuation comes within the very presence that we become aware of. I love you. I'm sorry. I never said goodbye. I was angry. All those emotions of life are there very much within the spirit. And through communication, this coming together, there is a great healing, you see. But it is also your compassion as an individual and the care that you have for others that helps to cultivate our own sense of becoming one within the power of all life, you see. And I'm a great believer in that, in everything that we do, that there is always a devotional element. For that which is created through the power of love will last for eternity. That which is built upon sand will disappear with the dawn. And so within ourselves, there is this intrinsic link to the spirit world, to the creative force. And one of the things that is absolute is that there is nothing that separates us from it, only our own physical mind and our own perception of the world itself. And so when we move into a time of prayerfulness, when we move into that time of compassion, it is an altered state of consciousness. It is moving from the thoughts, the analysis of the physical mind, and moving more into what we call the super conscious mind, where everything exists as one, the past, the present, and the future. And that whenever you act into any sacred power, it is really important that you have your own sense of devotion, your own prayerfulness. I have a very, very simple one, and that is from the highest that is within me to the highest of the universe. I dedicate myself to the service of the Spirit. The way of the Spirit is my way. The light of the Spirit is my light. And so we are interconnecting through that divine source to the power of all life with that intention that we become one with everything that is a part of that process, you see. And so healing must first start with you and I. For the role and the pathway of the sensitive is not an easy one. And you will often find, you see, that through the journey of unfolding of sensitivity, we tend to relive many aspects of the past. And the physical, emotional balance of life will always be within a balance. And so it's really important to remember that we can be everything for the world and everything for everyone else, but how important it is that we learn to recognize our own needs within the process, you see. And so it's important to remember that where we are now is the product of our thoughts and actions of the past. And today, as we create tomorrow. So our thoughts and actions of today will begin to move us into a different awareness tomorrow, you see. And one of the great steps within sensitivity is actually recognizing that. And part of the healing process of our own individuality is really learning to recognize that divine force within you and I. For you could not be more connected to it It is the essence and energy from whence we come. It is the light in which we exist, and it is the future to that which we return. And so, therefore, that ability is there. It is within us. And it's really important to remember that throughout the practices that we undertake within life, that we actually take time to nurture self. That as we are imbued by this presence of creation, this light of healing, that it is also there for you and I, you see. And that's not always so easy to embrace and to accept, but it is one of the thoughts that I want to leave you with, you see. Because part of this process is about the nurturing, the healing, and the acceptance of self, you see. And when we move into the compassion for others, it cannot help but start to transform our own journey, for it is transformative of the spirit, not just within the realization of the eternal process, that we are all interconnected through the power of creation, that regardless of colour or creed or belief, we are all children of the one mystery of all life, which indeed we are. But also perhaps to embrace that we are worthy of it, for indeed you are. And part of this journey sometimes is about accepting that love, and in some cases, even learning to love. And in that learning to love, we also learn to forgive ourselves, to forgive those that have played a part within our journey, and to really embrace the core essence of our being, which is, of course, love. For it is love that has created the universe, and everything that we perceive, the power itself. So the power to heal is the power of thoughts. It is the power of love. And above all, it is the power of compassion. And we come into times of really embracing that within ourselves. And this is when we talk about the attunement process. And the attunement process is when we learn within our own sensitivity to become with the power and the essence of all life itself. For when we do that, you see, there is a rising of our own consciousness. There is a quickening of our vibratory energy. And you may have noticed, perhaps, that when you're really praying for someone, you feel inside that there is this upliftment of energy that is taking place. And then, of course, you know that God has heard you, that you have moved into that level of consciousness where we are starting to become more aware, you see. So it is the living essence, it is the living presence, but it is also a living intelligence, you see. The power that knows all, loves all, and understands all can mark the fall of a single bird and the growth of a blade of grass. And you cannot be where that love is not, and you cannot be lost to its identity. Between the last breath of this world and the next awakening, you cannot be lost to its identity. For the power and the presence is the power of all life, you see. And so that awareness begins to grow within you and I, really through that sympathy for others. And the awareness of the power itself is really important. Because when we become one with that universal flow of love and compassion, we are supported, we are uplifted, and we are strengthened by its presence. If we are not connecting in that way, then we are working with something called magnetic healing, which is healing with the power of the mind, which is also a very strong form of healing. but it does not last. So within the healing process of the mind, it's the giving of energy and the wishing well, but that energy will not maintain itself within the patient. And what you will find is that very soon after, perhaps a day after, they start to lose that energy, you see. And then also the healer who has brought forward that healing will be tired afterwards. Whereas when you are working within the living essence and presence of all life, you are uplifted, you are strengthened, and it stays with you. So the living presence of the power is the living prayer of healing, and it is a living prayer. And so the power of the mind, you see, is the ability to create. It can be positive, it can be negative, but energy follows thought. Therefore, when we move into the prayerfulness of wishing someone well, we are then automatically moving into a greater awareness of the energy of the light of love itself. We are becoming one within that process. And as we become one within that process, there is always a destination. It can be for a person, it can be for a situation, it can be for the planet, it can be for the animal kingdom. It is multifaceted in its beauty and compassion to heal. But it is the focus of the mind that brings it into attention and leads to its destination, you see. Such people who have had great faith throughout time have been able to not only touch that power of healing, but through the mere power of their prayer have been able to astral travel to the destination of the healing. Padre Pio was very famous for that. St. Francis of Assisi, and in the writings in the diary of St. Faustina, she was extraordinary in the way that she wrote. And she said, I was deep within the power of prayer, and I was praying for this dear child to be relieved of the pain. And I opened my eyes and I was standing beside her. And so through the absolute faith of her prayer, she bilocated to the object of her prayer. And St. Francis, well, he was absolutely known, and Padre Pio. And what I find interesting within that is that within our own thoughts and healing and prayers, we can often, when we are really focusing within it, we can be aware of what's happening with the person we're praying for. You can even see where they are and what's happening around them, you see. So you're really creating this focus. And what is important within that focus is that it is thy will, not my will. And that we are working with a living intelligence that has the ability to know and understand the needs of another. And this is where you just have to be careful when you enter into healing. Because if you direct it by the power of your mind, say, for instance, somebody has problems with a leg, and you dedicate the whole of your thoughts to the leg, you could be limiting the ability to heal, because although the pain may be within the leg, the root cause may be emotional, you see. And so often when we have a pain, it is the end result. It is not the root cause. And this is why healing is so extraordinary, for it has an ability to work etherically upon the patient, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, all at once, on all those levels. And any condition of dis-ease will show itself first etherically, you see. So when we move into a time of prayerfulness, we are creating this harmony but we are also creating an energetic connection within the power itself, which is auric.
Oh, let me give you a pen. Over there.
So it is an
Pen
auric
here.
sympathy that is created, you see, through the compassion and through the love. And when I go on to speak about trance healing, that's really important because it is an auric sympathy that is created between the healer and the spirit world. You see, that's how communication is created. It is not through the body, it is through the auric field. And when we look at the auric field, we have the subtle bodies of the auric field, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And within those subtle bodies, you have what we call the etheric double, which is an exact replica energetically within the auric field. And it's through the auric field that everything comes into being. And we are connected to the auric field through our central nervous system and emotional system, you see. So our awareness moves from the physicality of life into the energetic. So whenever you move into a heightened state of sensitivity, you become more aware of your thoughts, your energy, and your feelings. And equally, the thoughts, energy, and feelings of others. So that's why often, as a sensitive, that you have to work on the power of the empath, and that you have to start making boundaries between our thoughts, our energy, and the energy of others, you see. Because when we look at energy and we look at the states of consciousness, many people speak about, oh, you must be protected, you are open and you are closed. Well, you're neither of those ever, because you're in a constant state of change, earth, air, fire, and water. And it is through the power of the will that you bring your sensitivity into being, you see. And it is exactly by the power of your will that you bring it back into a quietness, so that you're not sensitive to the thoughts, the feelings of others. And if we are in a position where somebody is in great need, then we can move within less than a thought to the universal power to support us, to support them. I hope that makes sense, you see. So you're working with a living energy that has an ability to know and understand the needs of another. So when we move into the time of the healing, it is a cooperative state, but it is thy will, not my will. So you are moving into a state of compassion energetically. You are connecting to the object of the focus of the healing. And then you are allowing that wonderful energy to flow, to move, to blend, and to become one with the patient. And this is where the power of the voice is so important, because the voice itself is a healing tool, for it contains compassion and love. And so often when somebody may come for healing, it can be that they're going through a very, very difficult time emotionally, physically. And usually some of the people we see are moving more towards the end of life and the acceptance of that. So the compassion of the voice becomes a real healing tool. And it's an absolute proven fact that we will say more to a stranger than we will to someone that we know. So the same with mediumship. When you're starting a reading, the power of the voice can really make it work for you. How are you today? Have you been for healing before? No? Well, let me tell you what's going to happen. Just relax a few moments. And what I tend to do is to use the voice as a meditative tool. Because if somebody is going through a very difficult time, then their mind is going to be totally focused upon what they're going through. So using the voice as a healing tool, what we should always do is to talk the person into a meditative state first before you start the healing. And then they will be more receptive and they will receive the healing much more calmly. And as you do that, that is also why many healers have music playing, because it's a distraction. While you're listening to the music, you're not focusing upon your issues, you see. And also with the power of the voice, as I move into the time of healing, important to prepare first as the healer, the attunement process, what we're going to do, how we're going to create it, and the thoughts, the power, the coming together before you even see the patient, you see. And then through the power of the voice, bringing them into that quietness, that stillness, that harmony. And I just say, now I want you just to focus on your breath for a little while. And as you focus on your breath, I want you to picture somewhere that you like to be. It can be anywhere. And just visualize yourself being there. And then all of a sudden, they will begin to relax, you see. And everybody within the power of healing will experience it differently. Some may feel it as an intense heat, some may feel it as an intense cold, and even on the odd occasion, especially if it's a condition of inflammation, may actually feel almost like a pain within the inflammation. And then the moment the healing's finished, it stops. Healing itself is the universal power of compassion. When I was a child and my mother took me for healing, all of the healers specialized in different conditions. And now we tend to be more universal within the healing. But I was most surprised when I went into the little room with the blue light, and I wasn't very old. And you had somebody who specialized in cancer conditions, somebody with diseases of the bone, other different things, and many other aspects, and they all specialized. And what's interesting here is that within your own healing, there will be certain conditions that you are more in harmony of treating than others, possibly because you have an experience of them. Therefore, there is more of a compassionate understanding to them. So we are working with a universal creative intelligence, compassion, which is the power to heal. And it is an ability to work simultaneously on all of the etheric levels, you see, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Now, the emotional and the mental levels often overlap each other. And even medical science sometimes has a problem with those two, you see. But the healing has an ability to move to the root cause of the problem, you see. So as you are attuning to the process, you are also attuning to the patient. So you have an awareness of the emotional state of the patient. And sometimes within the healing itself, there may be an emotional release. And if there is an emotional release, then you should stop healing immediately, because the healing will only make the emotion stronger. So if there is an emotional release when you are working within healing, just stop, be still supportive, but step back so that they have room. If somebody's going through an emotional release, their first instinct is to push away. Give me space, you see. So you need to really just give them, allow them that time, be there with the water just in case. May never happen, but sometimes, of course, it may. And so always keeping an awareness of what's happening with your patient is important within that process. And the length of healing is also dependent upon the need of the patient. So for some, you may be longer, for others, you may be within a shorter time, you see. And so our own thoughts as the healer is really important. Be well, be strong, be whole. So it is a universal prayer from the highest that is within me to the highest of the universe. Be strong, be well, be whole. And you also have to perhaps here bring in the psychology of healing within it. You know, you've got a wish to be well. So it's also about stimulating hopes of improvement, of really encouraging someone to cooperate within that process, because it is an energetic process, and allowing time for the healing to work, you see. And that is the difference between healing through the power of the mind, which is magnetic healing, and spiritual healing. Is healing spiritually is a living energy that will continue to work for anything up to 3 days afterwards. And so it is a living energy. I would say that it's the prayerfulness of healing. Be well, be strong, be whole, you see. So it's of the heart. And I believe, and this is of course my own opinion, it is our own compassion that is part of the goodness. Anybody who says they are just a vessel, I don't believe it at all. Because it's also your own thoughts, your own heart, your own goodness, and your own wish to help someone is part of that process. You know, you can have a whole room full of healers and everybody goes to the same one because they recognize something within them that is a kindred spirit that can help them, you see. So it is a lifelong process of developing and unfolding. And I should also put in here that healing of any form is governed by the laws of the land, and that you have to abide by, in this country, the code of conduct of what is and what is not acceptable. Strictly speaking, there is no need to touch another person because it is an energetic transference of energy, you see. But there are many who the touch is the healing. And so within that process, the only place I would ever touch would be upon the shoulders and nowhere else, you see. And always with permission, you see, because there are many people who do not like to be touched and just prefer the energetic transference of energy. So the power itself is limitless in its ability to support and to strengthen and to encourage wellness. And within wellness, we have to speak about the balance of mind, body, and spirit, and bringing everything back into that balance, you see. For instance, you've got many people who like to look at crystal healing and using crystals as a way of healing. Well, it's the same power, but a crystal just has the ability to amplify the energy. And so it's also dependent upon the type of crystal, how it's made, the minerals within it as it's formed, and so forth. So, but really, it's the energy itself that does the healing, and the energy that it is really created. So the attunement process should really be done as a separate practice from anything mediumistic, because it is not a time for communication, it is a time for healing. If you are working within the healing and you start communicating with Granny, then you're no longer healing. The energy will change and it will become one of communication. So it should be a total focus upon compassion and the embracing of that and the transference of that and of wellness. If there is a need to communicate, do it separately. Make a separate appointment, not at the same time, really. You need to keep within that very subtle energy of healing, you see. And that's why many years ago, we don't do it so much now, but I remember when I was a child and I started to develop my mediumship, I was only 16 and I'm 116 now. And for the first year, we weren't allowed to communicate with the spirit. For the first year, you had to just sit into an awareness of the power and to really take time to move into the prayerfulness, the oneness. And then when I started to work as a healer within the church, we still went to healing meditations and unfoldment. So there's a real focus there and a real development process, you see. And if you feel the energy of healing, you know that it's a totally different energy to the active trance state, which is mediumship. It's much more the passive trance state, where it becomes thy will, not my will, you see. So the focus is there, but then the cooperation is one which facilitates that flow of energy. And depending upon who you are, you may have certain experiences within the healing itself. And that's perhaps where auric diagnosis may come into being. What is very interesting with that is that within trance healing, when the spirit speaks during a healing session, they never clinically diagnose. They talk about the condition and what has created the condition, which tends to be physically, you see. And we know that within the power of healing itself, unless you are medically qualified, you should not diagnose anyway. It's a big no-no, you see. But often within the power itself, you may have a subtle awareness of how the power is interacting with your patient. And many healers experience colours. And there is a wonderful book by a doctor, it's either Dr. Lytton or Dr. Hilton, and I get the name incessantly wrong. And it's called Colour in Health and Disease. And Mr. Gordon Higginson said he was the nearest to getting it right. So he speaks about the colours within conditions. It's only a very thin book. And I do like economical books, and it's quite reasonable. Colour in Health and Disease.
It's
And
Dr.
it's
Hilton, Colin.
Dr. Hilton. I
Yeah.
have a saviour, I have a guide coming forward. Isn't that wonderful? And could you say the name again?
Dr. Hilton.
It's Dr. Hilton, everybody.
Hylton.
Colour in Health and Disease, that's the one. And
Yeah.
it's a fascinating book, and it speaks about the rays of colour in relation to healing. And of course, that has been an absolute science, using colour as a healing process. There was an amazing man called Dr. Kilner. Some of you may have heard of him. Did a great study of the auric field, and he invented something called the kilnoscope. And what it is it is a machine that projects coloured light onto the patient, and they are immersed within it for 20 minutes. And the ancient Egyptians used to chant, and the mists would appear, and the patients would walk through the mists, and the colours would be created, and the healings would take place. So it's a real aspect of healing, you see. And what you may notice, some of you that heal on a regular basis, is that you begin to see colours within the healing, and those colours change by the condition and the needs of the patient. So it's a very interesting book if you want to follow through with that and with the colours and the energy of colours. Magnetic healing has been really something that was really quite a science at one time. Have you ever heard of Anton Mesmer, the famous Austrian mesmerist? Well, there was an extraordinary man called Andrew Jackson Davis, who was known as the Poughkeepsie Seer and is also known as the father of the Lyceum. And he had all of these different experiences in the Summerland. And it was in the Summerland that he saw all of the children growing up within the spirit and how they were coming together in different groups and different colours, and how they were encouraged with music and to really grow within their thoughts. And when he came back, he wrote about it, and it was through that that the spiritualist Lyceum, created, the first one by Alfred Kitson, I believe, came into being. But what was also interesting with him is that he started with his own mesmerist. He was placed into a very deep hypnotic magnetic state of entrancement, and he was able to diagnose and prescribe in Latin. And this is a man who was only educated to the age of 12 in America. And that's extraordinary. And another person with an inbuilt spiritual diagnosis was, of course, Edgar Cayce, the father of holistic medicine. But Andrew Jackson Davis could even write in Latin, and I've seen in Lilydale some of his diagnostic work in the museum. It's incredible, really. And what is interesting within his life, you see, is that he went on to gain a doctorate in medicine later in life. So he used the hypnotic magnetic state of entrancement to move him. We don't use it so much now. I used to use it years ago as a trained hypnotherapist at the college. And if you've got somebody whose mind is very active, you can use the magnetic passes as a way of calming them and bringing them into more of a stillness so that they can then cooperate more within the trance state. And so there is another book, which I don't even know if it's still for sale, and it's called The American Manual of it'll come to me before the end of today and I'll write it down for you. Mesmerism, that's it. So really, when we're moving into that time and that presence, it is the sitting time, it is the attunement time that is really important. Now, many of you may have heard the term sitting in the power, and that was a technique given to us by the spirit world that involves really moving into that state of meditation and then blending with the spirit world. But the major part of sitting in the power is actually becoming one within the power of all life. And that as you move into that time of blending and becoming one, it is a time not only of being at one with the creative force, but actually it's also a time of nurturing of self and of healing self. And that one of the techniques that you should always do is to nurture and heal, and to have those times when you are at one with the power itself. For when we are strong, the world is strong, you see. And what I often find is it's much easier to give than to receive. And so part of what I'm really bringing forward as an idea today is how worthy you are of the power itself, how worthy you are of embracing the power of creation, you see, and how using it in that way reminds the soul of its own divine connection and purpose. For the soul is of the physical world, which is our place of belonging, while we reside within it, but your heart is always of the divine, always connected to that wonderful energy, which is the power of all life, you see. Now, we have to live in the physical mind because it is the governing force of this world, but in our hearts, my goodness, you can always be within the creative force, finding peace and harmony, and ultimately embracing joy, which creates love. So we begin to really look at the healing energy, the power of healing, and we begin to see that it actually touches many different facets of our work as a medium. It touches many aspects within our sensitivity, and how important it is to recognize that process of really blending being and becoming at one with that guiding force, which is the power of all life, you see. And what I also believe is that as you start to work within that, you know, remember that there is something called absent healing, you see. So we have contact healing, and that is when you're healing somebody who is there and who is with you. Distant healing, which we would use more perhaps in a hospital situation, where you would be sitting here and the patient would perhaps be a little way from you. And then absent healing, where you would then be really sending your thoughts of healing to those who just were taking your prayerfulness of thoughts. And one of the things that you can do within that is that when there becomes several people, it's not always easy to work individually with everyone, to have a healing book and then to write their names down and then to hold the book and move into the prayerfulness and then send your thoughts to everyone within the book. And every single person will receive that healing before you have finished that thought. For that is the power of the Spirit. Nor time nor space can e'er keep those I love away from me. We live in what we call non-local reality, so time and space is man-made, not of the Spirit. We did a lot of experiments between this country and Australia, and even Alaska, I believe they did some as well. And the very second that healing was thought in this country, it was received in the very second in Australia. So time and space does not exist. And then if you bring that into the power of prayer, my goodness, you are unlimited. Isn't that wonderful? That there is a presence within you and I that is unlimited in its ability, within its compassion, and within its love. And can you begin to imagine what a revolution could be created if everybody sat within that one moment and wished everybody well and wished peace within the hearts of all? There would be a revolution of the Spirit. My goodness, would there ever? So that really is very much to do with the spiritual aspect of the healing. And I really need perhaps just to drop in a few words to do with the trance healing, the power of trance healing. Now, I believe that quite naturally, as you move and blend within the presence of all life and of the healing force, that you gravitate towards the spirit world. Because if you move to the heart of creation, you'll find the spirit, you see, and the healing angels, however you wish to call them, will join you within the healing, you see. And so it's very much a process that is the same, but what you're also doing is you're asking the spirit to be with you and to guide you. So it is slightly different. And so when we're working within what we call the trance healing, the medium, the healing medium, is in a much more cooperative state, you see, because when you begin to work in a trance state, the physical mind begins to move into a greater quietness, but the consciousness rises. And within the higher state of consciousness, it then becomes one with the guiding force of the spirit. So it is the mind of the spirit that then begins to actually move the power and create and focus and concentrate the energy of healing. And so trance healing tends to be more concentrated and more direct. They both work equally. But what is interesting is that spiritual healing will work from the outside in, etherically inside, but the trance healing can work inside out. So, for instance, if you have a problem in a kidney that is like less than a pinhead, then the spirit has an ability to move and manipulate the power to that point. So it tends to be more of a concentrated healing, you see. Harry Edwards, who was an extraordinary healer and was known for dematerializing tumors, always worked in the trance state. But as he moved greatly further on within his healing, he was asked, how do you create your healing? Originally, he was very much with the guides and the helpers, and he just moved into bringing it into one. And he said, I merely heal with the power of God. And he was extraordinary in the things that he did. So starting to build the union with the spirit world is a natural process of healing, I believe. You may be aware of it or you may not, but they are never far away, where love, prayer, and compassion is needed. And so there are many people who heal within the spiritual aspect of healing, but there are also many people who heal within the trance aspect of healing as well, you see. So that would be developed very much in the same way, sitting for the spirit. And within the sitting in the power, so important just to sit, to be, to embrace, and then to move your thoughts to the spirit world, so that there is a blending and a union together with the spirit. If you're working as a trance healer, you must always have a chaperone present. And the reason for that is that if you're healing in a deeper state of attunement and words are said, you may not be aware of those words. So it's having somebody to record those words, but also they will receive healing as well, because the energy is in the room and it will work on them etherically as well. But when you are healing with people, I would always recommend that you have somebody with you, because unfortunately we live in an age now where we have to be careful, you see, and there is a duality of care there, a duty of care as well, for the patient, you know, but also for the healer. So we have to be mindful of such things in this day and age. It's the world in which we live. And so with the trance healing, that then deepens over a period of time and can lead to physical corrections if there is a physical element within the energy itself. So there's quite a lot of information there, really. And I've been speaking for nearly an hour, which is cool. And I think to just bring it all together here, it is the most extraordinary ability. Mediumship itself is a miracle. It is an ability to bring into this life and world the absolute proof of the continuation of life. But it is also about the ability to bring forward and to foster God's love within this world. You see, however you perceive that to be, you see, be it the energy of the earth, the sea, the sky, for it is all one, however you perceive it to be, but it is a living essence that wishes us well. And you know, we are within this life for a purpose. I do believe that. And the sensitivity is of the soul. So it's something you come with. It is something that you are. It is not something that you hope to be. It is something that you should recognize that you already are. For the power moves through you, you see. And I am reminded here that there is often great discussions as to whether you should send healing to someone who does not know you are doing it and who would possibly not thank you for it anyway. And the answer is always pray for the higher purpose of the soul. And if it is right, it will be divinely accepted. If it is not right and not wished, then it will be used in another way. You see, it's not intruding upon someone. You see, what it's doing is it's allowing that natural order of life, the universe and the spirit, to work its magic within it. And I think more and more we are needing to focus upon this duality of who we are and the importance of working on our own sensitivity and really moving into a time of self-healing as well as working within the compassion that comes within everything else. Do think about the power of the voice within your work as a medium, because compassion is universal and it's a vibration, you see. And often within that, people will speak to you. And of course, your own natural intuition and knowing can tell you someone needs to speak. So always try and give people time when you speak to them. And then they will then have an opportunity to speak to you. Everybody's experience within healing itself is going to be different based upon their own perception of it. But no healing is wasted. Even within that moment of leaving this world to the next, it cushions the soul, it surrounds it in love as it moves upon its next level of existence, you see. And it is a part of you and I, and it is a part of who we are. And so cultivate that, but also remember how loved you are. For in the whole of the universe, there is no one who is like you. And in your individuality, just the way you are loved. And that's an incredible thing, you see. And the positive power of prayer has the ability to touch any point of any world before that prayer is finished, you see. And the healers of the spirit world take our thoughts, take our prayers to where it's needed. And I have never known it not to be so. And it is the greatest of the universe. It is life and love itself. Okay, so now I'm just going to have a time of questions. If anybody has any questions, then you go to I've no idea where you go, but it's marvelous. Is it Host's Tools? No, it's not.
It's a
Go to
reactor.
chat.
That's it. Well, you've
React.
got a little bear paw, and you do your bear paw, and it shoots you to the top. And then I answer a question if you have one. Anybody? And then I'm going to do a healing meditation. Yes, Jim, how you doing?
I'm all right. Cheers. Thanks. My I'm sorry I was a bit late, so you might have said it already, but my question was, can healing be done like it? You can do it sitting in a chair. That's how I received it. But can it also be done with people lying down on like on a massage table or anything else, or is it
Well,
different ways? That's my question.
there are many different ways that can be done. But you just have to be mindful because the code of conduct now doesn't allow healing tables
Was that right? I think.
in this country. I think I am correct. And it is just sitting down now within a chair.
Okay. Cool.
But if it's done outside of, then that's completely different. But also do remember that if you are working with the public, you should also have liability insurance.
Yeah. Definitely. Cheers. Thank you,
Okay,
Colin.
lovely to see you.
You too.
Any other thoughts or any other questions? Deborah.
Hi, Colin and everybody. So I serve when I can over at our spiritualist church here in Toronto. And what I become aware of is that the thoughts that come through my mind, if I'm up near the head, I think, oh, God bless this soul, their eyes for all the horrific things they've seen, all the trauma they've seen. And I have a sense that not only do I know it's hit them mentally and emotionally, but it's almost stamped on the tissue of the eyes. And I mean, I don't get involved and I don't give direction, I just let it flow. But I am well aware, and I thought, well, afterwards, if I'm thinking about that, about the eyes, it's going to be, yes, our different levels, in our aura, but also the tissue. So if what have my ears heard? What have my eyes seen? I just feel there's like a sense of, I guess, trauma, I guess, stamped, on us that I never gave thought to before.
Well, I mean, that's a very good point, isn't it? Because we are the sum total of every experience and it remains within us. And so that's really where the healing process comes into being, because it's also a letting go, isn't it? You see, because we tend to hold on to different things, you see. And whatever that may be, that is the beauty of healing, because it works on all those different levels simultaneously, you see. So that's wonderful.
It makes you think, makes me think. Never mind the eyes, the ears, our feet, all the different body parts. But thank you.
Well, everything heals in a totality, doesn't it? So it touches everything at once. Fiona.
I heard that you can actually heal with your voice.
You can heal with your voice, absolutely.
So I know, just talking to people sometimes heals them rather than actually training to be a healer, just with your voice.
Well, I think that that's wonderful, but in looking at it in a greater perspective, well, that's also using the power of love and compassion through the voice, isn't it?
Yes.
So therefore, you're healing. It's beautiful. I believe far more is done in that way. Because, I mean, even when you look at the energy of the spirit, it's about life. It's not about death. There is no death. And you'll find mediumistically, you do far more work in life. It's not about standing on a rostrum, although it's part of it. It's really about life, you see. And compassion will show itself even in a smile. It will begin to create, and it will move us into that healing energy. So thank you for that. That's beautiful. Lynn, you have a question.
Hi, Colin.
Hey.
I've recently been doing some trance healing for my clients, and when I do, I'm also getting a lot of information for them psychically, I believe,
Okay.
and I've
Yeah.
been sharing that with them afterwards.
Yeah.
So, okay, am I off track? Because it sounded like from your lecture you felt those two activities should be separate.
Well, they should in a way, really, because, well, no, cancel that just for a little second. Because when you're moving into the trance state, it can stimulate the clairvoyant vision. The clairvoyant vision can have a healing effect on showing you what areas in life it's healing.
Ah,
The only
okay.
thing that you have to be mindful of is that you don't move your thoughts away from the healing, because you can, you see.
Mm.
Because if you look at that level of clairvoyance and you look at the state of entrancement, the trance healing is the alpha theta bridge. So you're moving into a deeper state. And actually, when you move into that deeper state, you're going beyond that psychic impression. So the only thing that I would say is it may be possible that you don't go any deeper.
That getting having the information come in prevents me from going into deeper trance.
You won't go deeper because you stay there,
I see.
because you're paying attention to what it's telling you.
Yeah, it is a bit of a
Oh,
distraction for sure.
therefore, it's like this. It's a continuation. Whereas really you touch that point, and then in order to move into a deeper state, because remember, you've got the beta, the alpha, the theta, and the delta. Well, the alpha theta going into the theta, and the delta is the deeper trance state. You're going into even more and more of a passive state. Therefore, you won't have the pictures.
I see.
So what you could do, just as an experiment, is to go through the healing process, and then as you come towards the end, is there anything I need to tell my patient? Just as you're finishing,
Okay.
you see, and then you're not really interfering with that process. You're just allowing the healing to take place. So in a way, there's a separation there.
Great. That sounds like a good kind of balance there with
And
that.
I'm sure you're wonderful at what you do anyway. Mariah.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hi, it's good to see you.
And you
So I'm
too.
sure my question will be, could be a lecture, a whole nother lecture, but what advice would you give us if we want to work on?
Oh, you've just muted yourself. Sorry.
Sorry. What advice would you give us if we want to work on healing an aspect of ourselves, specifically more like on a physical level, like a lower back pain? I
Yes.
know there's so much as far as, emotionally and spiritually, but my question specifically is just like we
Yes.
want to heal something about
Okay.
us physically. Thank you.
So I'm going to do an exercise within the next couple of minutes, and I will cover that within the exercise, because it's a beautiful exercise.
Okay, thank you.
Brenda, I'm sure Brenda. Where's Brenda gone?
I dropped down because that was my question too.
No, really?
Yes,
That's
self-healing.
wonderful. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll do Marie. Hello, I haven't seen you for a while. How are you?
Hello, Colin. Can I just share what I do each day? And I find it's strengthened my back and everything. In my meditation, I bring the Christ light in through the top of my head, and I ask that every cell within my body is filled with Christ light. And I just feel that beautiful light and that color go right through my body, and I know it strengthens me.
It does, I'm sure. That's wonderful.
Mm.
Bless you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to do a small exercise now, just for a little while. And I will also cover what we were speaking of just a few moments ago, because there is a wonderful exercise that you can do with trance self-healing that you can then create for the healing purpose. So let us just come together for a few moments. And as we gently come together, first and foremost, just really observe your own energy. Because as we're getting ready to sit within the presence of the power, already I can feel that it's starting to build. It's already starting to grow, and you should feel that as you're sitting. And as we gently just move into the oneness, we start to move into the stillness and the quietness. And gently and softly allow everything to become quiet within you. Gently and softly, without forcing. And as we become aware of the stillness, just begin to embrace it. And as we move into the stillness, begin to allow yourselves to become aware of how greatly loved you are by the unseen world of the Spirit. And that also how we are a part of the Spirit's creative power. And gently allow this awareness to intensify and deepen. And as it begins to deepen, become aware of the love that is flowing through you, through your body, your mind, and spirit. And begin to recognize that this love has the power to heal the whole of your physical being, all of the pain and the disturbances within your life. That connect with both the past and the present. And as it flows through you, it will seek to show you how greatly loved you are. It seeks to encourage you to learn how to love yourself, to accept yourself, to be compassionate towards yourself, to be forgiving of your faults. It creates within us and encourages us to love all of life, And through this love, you will also learn to forgive those who may have hurt you. And that as we do this, gently allow your mind to become free, to become accepting. To begin to realize that all that we have learned about life in all dimensions, and this learning has helped us to be more compassionate and understanding. Embracing the person who we are, who is moving forward upon a spiritual quest of life. And gently and softly, as the love and the healing flows through you, become aware of how it harmonizes your body. How it touches your mind and brings about a deeper feeling of freedom. And that indeed, as we embrace it, it is helping us to discover the power and the potential that our spirit possesses. For in all that we are seeking, it is also seeking us. And as we embrace the quiet, as we embrace the love and the stillness, gently within your heart, repeat the following words. I love myself. I accept myself. And all is well within my world. I embrace the power, the potential of infinite possibilities that reside within me. For indeed I am a child of the infinite Spirit, and all is well. In the absolute knowledge that all that we are seeking is also seeking us. For within the presence of all life, we are loved. In embracing that love, we become love and we share it with the world. Infinite Spirit of all life, in whom we move and have our very being. We feel your presence. We acknowledge your love. May we forever seek to support, to strengthen, to bless and to heal all those who come seeking, for all those that are seeking to find love within their hearts and balance within their journey. Breathe deeply, breathe strongly, and feel the power within the breath radiating throughout the whole of your body, uplifting, strengthening, and renewing. And gently and softly becoming aware of the breath, feeling all of the love, all of the energy staying with you long after this time has gently come to a close. For all is fine and all is well. And very, very gently becoming aware of the breath and aware of the here and the now. Everyone okay? Very gently, very softly. I've never lost one yet. Okay, everyone. That was beautiful. So, just going back to lovely Mariah's question, to seek healing for a certain physical condition and the way to do it, which is very similar to the techniques of trance self-healing. So you go into the quiet and you can practice it with me if you wish. It's only a short exercise. You go into the quiet and into the stillness. And you first move into the universal power, which is the compassion of healing. And then wherever there is a need, you visualize it within your mind, within your thoughts. Moving into the flow of the healing with the thoughts. And then visualize just sending those thoughts to the power. So you're focusing upon a particular issue or a physical manifestation of power. The only thing that I would do also is just be open to the power. Because although you may have a physical pain, there may be more to it than just the physical pain. Don't limit where it can work. And just be open and receptive. And what you may like to try, and I often do this when I'm teaching, especially within the healing, is I do the exercise for the trance healing and the self-trance healing. And then I get everybody to do the exercise, but also to observe how the energy is working with you. And then when you've done that for about 5 or so, 10 minutes, I then say, now, tell me something. How many of you felt the energy in a different way to the way that you asked it to be? And you will have, there's one there, Ellis, bless you. And what it will tell you is that you may have a perception of need, but the power has a greater one, because it will go to where it's needed, to the root cause. So just be open and receptive within that, you see, because often within a physical condition of pain, it can be a referral to something else. So just be open and receptive within that. And then as you move into the healing, call upon the spirit. And then you'll move into the trance self-healing, and that will then support the healing in a way that is supportive to that process, you see. And you'll find that that will work very nicely. Okay? Any other questions for today? Okay, so in our next lecture, it is unfolding the trance states, which is a really nice one. And if some of you haven't been able to register for it, then please contact me directly. And at Medium Colin Bates at Gmail. Oh, hang on. We should learn to spell. I never did pay attention at school. gmail.com. And I will pop you a link in so you can come, because we not sell, but we book in over 100 people, but they never come. So you're very, very welcome, and I'll just pop it sideways. Okay, so we've spoken of many different things, and I will be publishing my talks, but they've got to be edited first, and then I'll publish them on my website, and then you're very welcome to have them. Okay, all right, thank you for today, and as always, a joy to see you all. All right, I'll be seeing you soon. Okay, and just look out for the next one, the trance states.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
Lovely to be
Cheers.
with you once
Bye.
again.
You too.
Bye.
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 Bye now.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
See you soon.